in order for people to treat you the way that you want to be treated, you have to show up for yourself. So you have to be the one that sets those boundaries. You have to be the one that says no. You have to be the one that pushes back on deadlines. That onus is on you. And then oftentimes other people will start to see that and they will respond accordingly. And if they don't, it doesn't matter because you're still enforcing that boundary for yourself.
Hi, welcome to our Happy Rainmakers series. I'm joined by Jenn Deal today. She's a trademark lawyer and a coach for lawyers. Welcome, Jenn.
Thanks so much for having me.
One of the things that you're able to help people with is the issue of boundaries. Do you recommend having a conversation with the people you're working with, or do you recommend just making your own choices and doing it quietly?
I think it's going to depend on your workplace. So I've always felt comfortable communicating a boundary that, I'm going to be offline or just not communicating it and having that boundary. But I think that when it comes to, especially depending on where you are in your career, right? If you're an associate and you've got some kind of deadline coming up, people are just going to have the expectation that you're going to be available. So I think it's less likely that you're going to have to communicate, hey, I'm available here. The real issue is going to be, are you making sure you're teaching people outside of those really busy times that you're not going to be responding to every email within 15 minutes? That's the place to me where if you're going to be unavailable, communicating that as opposed to communicating when you're going to be available, because our default expectation, right, is that everyone is available at all times.
So would you recommend when you're sort of training your team to understand that you're not available after 10 on a weekday or on a Sunday afternoon, that even when you see the email, you don't respond so that they get used to kind of train them not to expect a response?
I love that. I also really love when more senior people model this kind of good behavior. So if you are a person who is senior and you are setting boundaries, the way to model it to me is to let people know that you're doing it, or to let people know that you don't have the expectation of them that they are working every weekend. People who are more senior, like, even if they're working on the weekend, the email says, you don't have to read this until Monday. Or they just let people know, I'm a night owl. I'll be working at 11 or 12. I don't expect that from you unless I have told you otherwise. So I think there are some really lovely ways that if you are more senior and you are the one managing people, that you can really help people feel safe to set those boundaries and teach them that it's okay to show up that way. In order for people to treat you the way that you want to be treated, you have to show up for yourself. So you have to be the one that sets those boundaries. You have to be the one that says no. You have to be the one that pushes back on deadlines. That onus is on you. And then oftentimes other people will start to see that and they will respond accordingly. And if they don't, it doesn't matter because you're still enforcing that boundary for yourself.
What would you recommend about vacation? Planning them for far enough in advance and letting everybody know. And how would you handle it if it seems like it's a little busy at the office when it's coming up on your vacation?
I think this to some extent depends on the environment that you're in. So I spent most of my career in big law. And when you're in a group of that many attorneys, it's much easier to take that vacation because there are people there to back you up. If you are a solo or you are in a small firm, it does get more difficult for you to just let things go because you don't necessarily have the people there. Either way, I think you should be taking those vacations. It just may look different for you depending on who you have available to help you pick up some of the work. For anyone who does have those people available, I think just making it as easy as possible. So communicating it in advance, making sure that they have all of the tools that they need in order to take care of whatever needs to be taken care of while you're gone. What I have found is that most people will appreciate that and they will return the favor. And the other thing I've also noticed is I think most clients, maybe I'm just lucky, but most of the clients I've had have been really respectful of vacations and time off when they can be. Sure, sometimes there are emergencies where it's just not possible, but if you are having an open dialogue and you are being respectful, then other people tend to just do the same for you. And so that is always the place that I like to approach it from. It's how can I make this easiest on other people to help me?
And I guess on big teams, the more senior people can message from the top.
For sure.
You're going on vacation, so-and-so will cover for you. When she goes on vacation, you'll cover for her, that kind of thing. And take vacation. When the partner in charge of the group never takes a day off, it kind of gives an impression that maybe it's not a good idea.
Yes, completely agree. Was very lucky to have some examples of people that, despite being very senior heads of groups, huge matters, would still take the time to take the vacations, and show us how it was done and support us when we wanted to take ours. I know that not everyone has that, but if you are in that senior leadership position, a great way to foster not only a good culture, but help your people prevent burnout, which is just good for business, is to make an environment where it is possible for people to take that time off and to feel safe doing it.
So you mentioned starting small, choosing one small thing that feels a little more comfortable to start with. And I think you said most people know what they want. They want more time, they want less of this, more of that. So they should think to themselves, what's important to me and what's the one smallest thing I can do today to get started?
Yeah, I love that. The other question is like, what do I want less of? I think is a really good question. So we often focus on, when we're thinking about making our lives better, we often focus on adding things. So I want to work out more. I want to do more of X, Y, Z. But often subtracting has to come along with that. Otherwise, you're just going to be overwhelming yourself. So really that question of what do I want less of? And sometimes that might be I want less time spent in my emails. And so I'm going to turn off those notifications and I'm going to take an hour to myself and not check it. Sometimes it might be I want less non-billable work. So maybe I'm going to start saying no to some of the extracurricular events that we all sign up for so many of. But yeah, that question of like, what is just one small thing I can do differently, or what is something that I want less of is another great question.
Well, thank you so much. This was really, really helpful.
Thanks so much for having me.